Hello, I'm Sally and I started this channel because I've had a leg ulcer for the last 7 months and I couldn't find anyone on YouTube talking at length about what they were going through, and although I belong to an excellent Facebook group, I wanted to hear someone rather than read shortened versions of the truth. So I've already made 3 other videos. If you had the time you may want to look at them. Today I intended to make a video on the subject of how these ulcers can affect you both physically and mentally. But yesterday and today have been so painful that I've decided to talk about pain instead. I never knew there were so many types of pain. As I've said before in the past, when I thought something was painful, it was actually just hurting. I've been lucky in my life with only having 2 major problems that I remember. Up until the age of 42, I suffered regularly with my back since I slipped a disc in my lower back in my mid-20s. I would often have painful spasms and I could not straighten my back and I couldn't move. Even moving my arms would put me into spasm. But now, having experienced real pain, I realised that most of the time that was just hurting and was painful at times. Then 4 years ago, I dislocated and shattered my ankle. When it happened, I was in such a shock that I didn't really experience the pain until they relocated it and reset the bones, and they did it without any anaesthetic or painkillers. And I didn't get any medication until 5 hours after I actually broke it. And during my hospital stay, I was uncomfortable, but not in pain. Obviously, I was on a drip. I was mostly in a daze. I think the shock was probably still in shock, to be honest. After the surgery, my leg swelled in the plaster cast. I was about to start screaming in pain and called the nurses, who actually cut the cast and then covered my leg with ice. And then I experienced a similar pain when I had my first dressing change at the local clinic, and the nurse put the cast on wrong. And that night my husband had to cut the whole of the front of the cast, pull it back. And that was the last of the terrible pain. I saw my surgeon the next day and he removed the cast permanently, and I recovered without it. For a week after the surgery, I had maybe 1 paracetamol and codeine a day and then nothing else. And during my recovery, there were times when it was a bit painful, but only briefly. And I only took paracetamol and codeine at night time because I needed to sleep because I was working. When I didn't know it was an ulcer, it didn't hurt at all. As soon as the doctor cut off the scab and cleaned the wound bed, and it was a very severe debriding with a scalpel, it all started. And as I said in my first video, that afternoon I experienced 3 different types of pain, which was quite a surprise for me. I know that people are often asked to grade their pain between 1 and 5. Well, that would not be enough for me, to be honest. I grade my pain between 1 and 10. And 0 pain means it just bloody well hurts a lot. When it is just hurting, I consider it a relief. And when my husband asks how it is, and it's only hurting, I say, it's just there, which to me means it feels good. On days where I get breaks from pain and live with the hurt, I'm really quite chirpy and I feel positive and convinced it's getting better. And then the next day, bang, it's back. So here we go. The pain at level 1 is the stinging, burning pain, which we're all very familiar with. That's pretty constant, isn't it? The pain at 10 is stinging, burning, being rubbed with a cheese grater while salt and vinegar is being poured in onto the ulcer, and then someone seems to have reached into my leg and is squeezing and pulling my muscles. And the muscle bits is much worse when my leg's extremely swollen, which is at the moment. In between, we have red hot pincers, pinching, red hot pokers poking, red hot pokers poking and twisting, and lemon juice being poured on, and so on. It really, number 10 is just, I can't describe it, but I do often find myself rocking in pain unconsciously. And I try and stop it when I am, but sometimes it's actually quite soothing. I found that after walking, even just to the bathroom, once I sit back down again, I go through at least 10 minutes where my leg's screaming at me. If I'm on my own, I actually swear at it quite loudly, and I use the worst words I can think of because it makes me feel better. If I've got someone with me, I just sit and scream inside, and probably rocking a little bit too. On the 10th of May, I started making notes because things were changing. I also did it so that I could check back and hopefully see my progress. And it's as a therapy because I can write down exactly how much pain I'm in without telling my husband. You might want to try it for yourselves. It does make you feel good, and it's also a good excuse to practice your handwriting. My handwriting's terrible because we just don't handwrite things anymore. Cards, shopping lists, scribble notes, and that's it. So try it for yourself. Just do it for a week and see if you've got improvement or if it's going downhill. Anyway, I digress. The preceding week, I'd slept in another room because I was twitching so much. For months, I would go to bed, put my leg up, and it would shout at me. But after 15 minutes, it would calm down, but I'd still twitch with little pains. And I can't stop it. And it could last 1-2 hours. So I'd watch TV for an hour or so until my eyes got heavy, and then I'd snuggle down and not sleep. I'd see the light coming through the windows, I'd listen to the bird song. I'd often see my husband get up, and then I'd fall asleep for a few hours until pain woke me, or he'd bring me in a nice cup of tea. But it was my husband who suggested that I slept sitting upright as if I was watching the TV, and that worked. So I'd fall asleep within 1 or 2 hours. So I'd had a really twitchy night, so for 2 nights I slept in another room so I wouldn't disturb Ken. Before I laid down, I actually sat on the edge of the bed for 15 minutes. And then when I laid down, I didn't get the 15 minutes of my legs shouting at me, and I had much less twitching. So I tried it the next night, and the same thing happened. So I thought, I've made a new discovery. This is how I stop my roaring when I get into bed and the twitching. That's it. And then I'd have pain levels about 1 to 2, and I'd get to sleep reasonably quickly. I would wake up several times, I think we all do, but I would get back to sleep again. So I decided the next night I would return to our room, and I planned to sit on the edge of the bed for 15 minutes before I got into the bed. I hadn't changed the dressing the day before, and I noticed in the afternoon that my trainer was soaking wet. When I changed the dressings, I saw the clear liquid dripping out. It soaked my new dressings immediately. And then that night, when I went to bed, I sat on the edge of the bed, and when I went to put my legs up, it was all right for about 1 minute. And then the pain just rose and rose and rose, and within, I'd say, half a minute, it was above 10. I told myself it would go, and I told the pain it must go, but it just got stronger and stronger. So for relief, I just dangled my leg over the bed, and that worked. So I put a footrest there, and that's how I slept. I got relief, but it was hours and hours. The next morning, the cushion on my footrest was soaked. I'd had some that's a hard word to say. I've had exudate since February, but it was only a small amount. But it's strange that the day the exudate started to be so heavy was the day that I stopped being able to elevate my leg. And it's been like this for 3 weeks now, so I'll be talking to the doctor, and I have a feeling that the dreaded compression will be the next step, and it's going to resolve this. Previously, when I would get in bed and go through the pain, I knew it would calm down after 10 or 15 minutes. And now when I lift my leg and I get the intense level 10 pain and upwards, I start to count in the hope of distracting myself, and that by the time I get up to 500, it'll be lessening. But I can't get past 100 before I want to shriek out loud. So I give in, I sit up, put my foot on the floor, and once it's calmed again, I lay down, dangle my leg, and I know that eventually I will fall asleep, usually to the sound of birdsong. The exudate is a whole new problem for me. So if you have it, how do you cope with it? I went onto Google, of course. I've got to find a new one. I don't like saying Google all the time. But I found pictures of people with their foot in plastic bags. But I solved this problem with incontinence pads. They're perfect. I wrap them around my leg, over my dressing, and I hold them in place with a strip of bandage, which sticks to the back of the pads. Perfect. And this means I can change them throughout the day without having to change my dressings. Great. But the first ones I tried were tenner ladies, and the first day I used 3 of them. So the 3 tenors. You've got to have a sense of humour. You've got to. If you don't make yourself laugh, you'll cry. Well, we do, don't we? As I said, I belong to a Facebook group, which is great. I only recently started posting. I just used to read what other people said, read the comments, and then instantly research whatever I had read. I have so many fellow sufferers who have much, much worse ulcers than me and underlying conditions that mean they have them a lot. I found it really hard to post about my situation when I saw that so many are worse than me. It's a wonderful group with a lot of support, and that's what I'd like to build up here. One comment that sticks in my mind is that no matter the size of your ulcer, the pain is the same. And another comment made was that the pain was worse than childbirth. Well, I don't have any children, so I have no idea. But people keep having children, so it's a pain you can forget. I don't know if I'll ever forget this pain. We'll have to see. I hope I do. This video has been particularly therapeutic for me. My husband can see when I'm in pain, even when I try and hide it, and he'll often chat to me to try and distract me. Sometimes it works, but not very often. But I don't want to talk to him about pain like I'm talking to you. And you're probably the same. He does watch my videos before I upload them, and he is learning about ulcers. Although he often says to me, well, at least once a day, I've never seen anything like it. And it was the same for me until I started researching. Watch this video with your partner and family if they're living with you. And please share it with people you spend a lot of time with so that they can understand what we're going through. And maybe they will also watch the prevention videos so that they never have to go through this themselves. In one of my previous videos, I explained how I thought I'd experienced pain, but discovered it was just hurt. And I remember Ken commenting when he heard that. I can't remember what he said, but it was a breakthrough in him understanding my pain. If you've got this far, I hope you'll like my video and subscribe. And if you press the notification button, you'll get a message when I make my next video. Liking and subscribing will also help my channel in that it'll push it up higher and be found more easily when people are searching for leg ulcer videos. I was planning to cover medication, but I don't want to make this too long, so I'll do one in the future. In the meantime, maybe you can tell me what medication or medications you're using and whether they help or not. Thank you for joining me. Now put your feet up and get well soon. Bye.